Welcome to the Seeds Storyteller Series with my sister, Katie Hilborn, founder of Global Orphan Prevention. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
It's going to be good. I'm so psyched. And Katie's going to take a minute and share this to her community. And
Yep.
there we go. And as
I don't know if I can actually do the watch party, but that's fine. It will work.
No worries. So for those of you that don't know who Katie is, you are in for a treat. Her passion, her life right now is all about preventing the abduction, protecting children from being trafficked all around the world with a specific focus on Nepal and the United States. And the reason I really want y'all to lean in and to listen to this amazing, inspiring sister's story is because I believe she has some things to teach us about what is happening historically and globally around human trafficking, and also specifically in this context right now amidst the coronavirus pandemic. It is impacting this work profoundly in all kinds of significant ways that I think we need to know about. And I have a hunch and a hope that as you listen to Katie's story, you are not only going to find a little more of your story, but you might be inspired to be a part of what she is up to, because what she is doing is making such a huge difference around the world, and she's only getting started. So Katie, thanks for joining us, and let's dive in. Will you tell us a little bit, give us a context about what is human trafficking, what is the orphan trade, and just kind of frame our conversation with that initially.
Right. Yeah, so I'm the founder of a nonprofit called Global Orphan Prevention. We prevent the abduction of children for purposes of the orphan trade and child sex trafficking. And a lot of people, there wasn't really a lot of awareness around orphan trafficking when I started the organization. There's many categories of the umbrella of human sex trafficking. Human sex trafficking in general around the world is $150 billion a year industry. Of all of that, 1 million children are sex trafficked or orphan trafficked around the world every year. 99% of those 1 million children are women and girls. Wow. Orphan trafficking is a subcategory of the bigger picture. Orphan trafficking in Nepal, when I was in Nepal in 2011, traveling around, seeing how I could help, I discovered that all these children in orphan homes had living parents. Some further investigation found that in Nepal in particular, 85% of children in orphan homes have living parents. Around the world, that really varies differently depending on the region, but that number is estimated between 54% and 95% of children in orphan homes worldwide have living parents. So what has happened is these institutions have become for-profit businesses. They make money on overseas volunteers, donors and things like that. And so it's turned into a form of human trafficking because they can make so much money by having these kids in these orphan homes.
Yeah. And then how about, I understand from what you have already shared with me that we don't yet have numbers. We don't know exactly how this pandemic is impacting the orphan trade and human trafficking, but we do know some things. What do we know about how this pandemic is moving in terms of fueling this industry?
Right, so we don't have exact numbers yet, but experts are predicting that we're going to see an increase in number of human trafficking cases because of the pandemic. And the reason is because this is economic driven. So there is a lot of profit to be had off of the sale of these girls. For the trafficker itself, like in Nepal, a trafficker can earn an entire year's income from the sale of one girl. So really, it really boils down to profits. So because of the pandemic, because it's absolutely destroyed our world's economy, it is expected that we are going to see a high increase of human trafficking cases.
Yeah. And what are you hearing from your community that you've been loving and serving in Nepal on kind of just how is this pandemic impacting the girls there, just personally, the families, the empowerment center that you guys are in the middle of constructing? Like, what's the ripples on the ground there with this pandemic?
Mm-hmm. So, I think we've been a little bit blessed here in the sense that the pandemic has absolutely destroyed Nepal's economy. I mean, that's a given, as it's destroyed everything else. But we're lucky in the sense that our programs are in the remote access Himalayan villages. It's in the district of Nuwakot. And I should probably talk a little bit about what we are doing. But our programs itself have not been terribly affected because they are so remote. They've actually been able to continue working. So we're happy to say that we've helped them remain employed during all of this. So we're happy about that.
Yeah. So let's back up and talk a little bit about. I think this story is so amazing how you have come to be building this empowerment center in this rural part of Nepal and how it really grew out of a previous huge crisis in Nepal, the 2015 earthquake. Yeah. Can you give us tell us the story? And it's a beautiful way of how good comes out of a crisis. It can, and it does if we look, and you are a queen at that. So,
well, thank you. Right. So, Global Orphan Prevention, the idea was born for the charity in 2011 as I was traveling around the country looking for need, seeing all these children had in orphan homes had living parents. So that's how the organization was born. Then in 2015, the Nepal earthquakes happened. It was a series of 3 devastating earthquakes that destroyed 10,000 people died, 1 million homes were destroyed, and it actually demolished 50% of the country's economy. So we were there just delivering disaster relief aid to these Himalayan villages that, often it's like a 5 to 6 hour drive over windy Himalayan road where there's a 500-foot drop on either side. Also, it's in the middle of the summer, which is monsoon season. Landslides are happening frequently. During this 3-month period, there are 450 aftershocks. So
you were there. Those were all happening. Yeah.
So it was a crazy 3 months after the earthquake. And something that I have found I excel in. When people are faced with adversity or challenges, some people will do the fight or the flight.
Yeah.
I'm the fight. If there's a disaster and emergency, I charge. I don't even know. I don't even think twice. Just something snaps and I know what to do. So in those 3 months, we were delivering aid to one particular village in the district of Nuwakot. Now, this is the #1 child trafficking district in the whole country. And as we were delivering aid, we arrived and discovered that all these girls had gone missing in the aftermath and chaos of the earthquake. Now, what had happened was police checkpoints were down and traffickers, we called them sleeper agents, they were activated. And they just started snatching girls because everyone was in a chaotic state.
Right.
So in that first month, it was 19 girls total that were snatched, and that number has grown. So we decided that we were going to course correct our mission and not just include orphan trafficking, but also to add on sex trafficking, because a lot of these girls were taken south to India and sold to the brothels. And they still are. Up to 12,000 women and girls are taken every year from Nepal and trafficked. So it's a really, this is a hot spot in the world. When you look at all the places in the world, Nepal, India are one of the major hotspots for this.
Yeah. And the thing that I just love that I want everyone to really listen to is the ways that Katie, curious Katie, is using kind of always asking the question, you know, what's going on here and how can I be of service and how can we act in the middle of this crisis of the earthquake that so many people would have totally been understandably running away from and say like, this is too big of a thing. That earthquake really was a catalyst for you to move towards what it is that you're doing now. And I think that is so incredible. And I think it's the human condition, there are always things outside of what we've planned for, crises that are happening. And I think you are a model of how we can very soulfully and wisely and powerfully move in, kind of like the traffickers. They were being opportunistic in the midst of that. The borders were down, families were desperate. But you use the same opportunity to create life, to create good, to create freedom and justice. So thank you, and may we all do that more. Let's just take a minute. I really want to make sure that in the midst of the epic, amazing, inspiring story of you and of Global Orphan Prevention, that we also see the human side of you, you know, how it is that you came to do this work. Like, could you share a few pivotal moments in your story, your personal story that really led you to be doing what you're doing now?
Ooh, some personal pivots.
Yeah, pull the veil back.
Right. You know, I just think that I've kind of always had it in me to help others. It feels good. It feels good to help others. You know, they actually say, and I'm actually writing a book that I've been writing since the earthquake of my personal narrative. And I have an intuitive writing consultant. His name's Mike Ligori. And, you know, he's helping me extract theme, because up until I started writing this book, I had no idea why I do what I do. Right. People would always ask me and I was like, I don't know. And so he's been able to extract theme, and there's a common thread amongst humanitarians. There's a common thread amongst people that want to give back. Now, you know, it feels good for us, and some, you know, it's like we get a rush out of it. I can't really explain it, but you know, some people say helping people might be selfish, but that's totally okay, because you know, I think it really comes down to, you know, I don't know. I think maybe this is something I need to explore a little bit more. But looking back over my life, I am adopted, and somebody was a newspaper reporter was interviewing me after the earthquakes, and he said to me, "Did you start all of this because you're adopted?" And again, that was like a pivotal turning point for me, because I hadn't put two and two together before that moment.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of funny, like we go through these motions in life and we don't really actually take the time to say like why we do what we do until somebody points it out to us. So there's several factors, you know, because I'm adopted, the thought of a child growing up without a family, without the love and affection of family, a child growing up in isolation, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So I think there's several reasons why I do what I do.
Yeah. And I do want to point out this book that you started 5-ish years ago. I love the part of the story of one of the gifts out of this time of lockdown is you've actually been able to work on your book more. Is that right?
Yes.
That's cool, because that story needs to be out, right? But you've been so busy, like there's been a lot to do in the work itself that you haven't been able to do in the same way during this lockdown. So it's been this beautiful door opening, right? Of this story getting closer than ever.
Yes, I've been writing this narrative nonfiction since the earthquake. So it's been 5 years, and the coronavirus lockdown has allowed me to finally start finishing the book.
Yeah.
I've written more in this lockdown than I have in 2 years. So I'm grateful for the silver lining. I'm always looking for the silver lining on things that are uneasy for us.
Yeah.
Even the earthquake has a silver lining. The earthquake, in
Yep.
all of its despair and destruction,
Yep.
happened to occur in the #1 child trafficking district of the whole country. And because of that, because the earthquake occurred there, it brought international attention to a centuries-old problem. Even this coronavirus, yeah, it sucks and it's horrible and it's destroying lives and the economy, but it has allowed me to finally work on those passion projects that I've been putting off for literally years. And the coronavirus has allowed me to, I have nothing else to do. I have no social life. I sit at home and I work on myself. I work on my book, and I start accomplishing the things that that have been put on the back burner.
Yep.
So I'm thankful. I am very grateful for that.
Right. Right. So will you talk a little bit about, because one of the things that I think is so important about your commitment and your vision is this Nepal, the focus in Nepal, and then you also really want to kind of shine a light on what's happening here in the United States around trafficking and around just the welfare of children. Will you talk a little bit about what is happening in the United States, specifically here, our state? We both live in the state of Colorado, for those that don't know, and what it is that you're doing about that right now.
Right. Well, I think we should first talk about what we're doing in Nepal.
Let's do it.
And then we can talk about what we're doing there. Right. So in Nepal, so the earthquake was the pivot, and we sat down with our team. I have some Nepali colleagues, Lakshmi Tamang, Uttam Balin, and others, and we sat down and we said, okay, these girls are being trafficked at an alarming rate. What are the root causes of this? I'm always a believer in give the net, not the fish. I'm always a believer in the prevention, right? And we don't provide Band-Aid solutions. We prevent the cut altogether.
Yeah.
I wish more organizations would operate from that perspective. So we really sat down with a team of Nepalis and experts in the village and the people in the village. And we said, well, what's happening? What is the problem? And actually, I was at the top of this mountain in the home of a family, and we were brainstorming, and this like teenage girl emerged from the shadows, and through a translator, she says, "Excuse me, I have an idea." Now, I kind of suspected this might be the solution, but our approach in our programs, we have soft power approach instead of hard power. Do you know hard power? Hard power is like America's foreign policy, where we go into a place and we decide what they need, right?
Yep.
But a soft power approach is you go into a place and you say, what do you want?
Right.
So you have, even though you might know the answer, the approach is you need them to say it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this little girl emerges from the shadows and she says, education.
Wow.
Money. We need an education. We need money, right? Because in Nepal, you have to pay for your education. So if you don't have money, you can't get an education. So really, when you break it down to the simplest sense, it's education and lack of education and lack of finances that are the root causes of child trafficking.
Yeah.
And so since 2015, the idea was born to build an empowerment center and dormitory. The empowerment center and dormitory is being built as I speak. Go to our Facebook page and look at the updates and the videos. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
And the Empowerment Center will house girls that live over a 2.5-hour trek from school. They'll come down so that they can live at the center, they can attend school, get an education. And then on top of that, we're partnering with several organizations. One is Community Leadership Nepal that will help us develop our leadership and self-development program. we're also partnering with the bank, NMB Bank, that will provide entrepreneurial training and microfinance programs for our girls so that when they graduate, they can start their own businesses. Because again, it's give the net, not the fish.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, we're really, really excited. It's been a 5-year dream. So to finally
I was just gonna say, yes.
yeah. So to finally see this thing being built, like it just makes me want to cry. I'm so happy.
That's so awesome. And please do, by the way, in the write-up, there is a link to more of Katie's story that I call it the connection vortex of Katie and Global Orphan Prevention. So like find them on Facebook, be a part of, check out all the amazing ways that they just love having community engagement from all sorts of gifts, and together we really can make a difference. And so if you are interested in being a part of what Katie's up to, make sure that you lean in and be a part.
Yeah, and I will say that we are still looking for more funding to complete the final phases of this project. So we had a Black Tie Gala last August, and that funded phase 1 and phase 2 of this project, which was the architectural works, engineering design, land transfer permits, all that stuff. Yep. Now we are in the other phases of this. So we are needing to more funding to help finish the project and also build out the sustainable programs that will accompany it. So if you want to get involved in this capacity, we'd love to have you be a part of our journey.
And please know, I mean, I'm sure many of you watching know this, but one of the very real tangible impacts of this pandemic and the economic shutdown around the world is for nonprofits like Global Orphan Prevention. It has really impacted funding. Like they have one of their huge fundraising events, annual fundraising events in August that may or may not happen. They had a couple scheduled for this spring. So I know you, Katie, and I know that you are not going to be deterred by the funding reality that is, I mean, there is a lack right now. There is gap, and so our invitation and our ask is, many people are out of work and do not have money to share. And there are many people who are looking to be able to make a real tangible difference in the world in the midst of this crisis. And I so invite you to consider donating to this project, because it is the stuff that just makes the world brighter and better and more beautiful. And every single dollar will be accounted and is transparent and will be used to the maximum with Global Orphan Prevention. So please consider that. All right, do you have anything more you want to share about Nepal, or shall we turn the light onto the United States? What's going on here?
Yeah, sure. Discuss.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about kind of one of the elements that really came to light for you here in the United States, and specifically Colorado, and what you're doing about it as it relates to human trafficking and orphan trade and all of that.
Right. Yeah. So we wanted, since the organization was founded in 2011, we've focused all of our attention on India and Nepal. Mm-hmm. And recently, in the last couple of years, I've always been like, I want to help at home, but I don't know how. Helping Americans is very expensive, compared to helping how far the dollar goes in a developing country and the impact you can have versus how far the dollar goes and the impact you can have in America. It's difficult and it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. So for years, I just was like, I don't know what to do, without serious funding, I don't know what I could do. Yeah. So then I was digging more. What is the child trafficking issue in America?
Yeah.
Now, the child trafficking issue in America is prevalent, though not as severe in developing countries. I think, so I started digging, right? Because like in the state of Colorado, there's only 121 human trafficking cases a year. That's I took the 5-year average. It's only 121 cases. Now, I don't want to say it's only, because I don't want to diminish you know, the severity of what that person is going through. So, you know, I was like, kind of like, you know, just kind of digging at it. Well, what can I do? I don't feel that I could have a very big impact for that. So started digging a little bit more and a little bit more. And I saw this alarming statistic that 60% of human trafficking cases, human trafficking victims in the USA have been in foster care. 60% have been in foster care.
Yeah.
Now that pisses me off. That is, especially somebody who is adopted.
Yeah.
Anybody that has any little bit of knowledge on American foster care knows that it is needs a huge revamp, and it is a completely neglected social services aspect of America that we need to focus on, is the foster care. So right now we formed a steering committee in here in Denver with a bunch of Denver people, and my domestic chairperson is Marlene Tabalera. And we formed this steering committee last November to kind of see, well, what can we do? How can we help foster girls?
Yeah.
That's it, the simplest sense. How can we help foster girls? And what we came up with, for the very little resources and money that we have, is you start small and then you expand.
Yep.
And this is what I want to convey to anybody listening that wants to start something that matters. This is what I want to convey to anybody listening that maybe wants to start a nonprofit or just wants to leave a legacy and help people and do something significant, is that it starts with an idea and it starts very small, and then you build and you take baby steps, right? So right now we're working on building these camps for teen girls that help with leadership, self-development, core life skills, nutrition, how to get a job, vocational training. It's empowering the girl. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're starting. So this program right now is in the development stages. But we're hoping to do some pilot programming and beta testing this summer with some day camps, just to kind of see like what works, what doesn't. Beta testing is so important for this kind of program development.
Yeah. I love that. And for those that don't know, the thing that is so, it's not just what you're doing, it's how you're doing it that I think is just gives us all light for the journey. It's of course you have this sense of vision and passion and inspiration, like I want to do something about that, but there's only so many steps ahead that you can see in advance. And you are just, I love how you're just like, okay, let's form a steering committee and see what we can do together. And then the coronavirus, lockdown happens and the camp dates, like who knows? And so you're like, I don't know what's going to happen about the when and the who and the how, but we're still gonna keep walking because we're going to do something, whether it's this summer or next summer, we're doing something. So please know that the reason that I love how you do what you do is it's so human and real. Like these times are so hard to plan around and make our way through, but you're doing it step by step. And the thing that I would love for you to also talk to us a little bit about is how you do make your way when you feel discouraged, when you feel overwhelmed, when the coronavirus happened, the lockdown happened, and all of the plans that you guys had made as an organization and you yourself been building for many years, like it shifted, it kind of shrunk all that down into like, not now, maybe not as soon as we had ever hoped. Like how do you navigate these days when you get down, when you get discouraged? What are some things that you do to keep on going?
To keep on going. Like in my daily, like what's my daily routine?
Yes. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. So, life is a whirlwind, and we're constantly, especially right now, we're in a state of flux. We don't know what's going to happen from day to day. And that's how it's been for the last 2 months. And so one thing can remain constant during this, and that is what you do with yourself, and how you are handling your mental health and well-being. That can be constant, right? I mean, we can't control the world or what's happening out there, but we can control what's happening in here.
Right.
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
And so my morning ritual, I wake up, I do 20 minutes, I put on a YouTube meditation and I listen to it. It's positive affirmations by this lady named Abraham Hicks. It's all about, I'm going to have a great day, and I just listen to that every single morning. And what's happening with positive affirmations is when you're listening to an audio and it's saying like, I am health, I am vibrant, I have abundance, I am loved, I am. You're subconsciously saying, I am when you're listening to it. So it has effect on your subconscious brain, right? And eventually you're going to believe it. Eventually you're going to become that. So I start my day off with that, and then I do a little bit of yoga for some stretching, and then I come down and have my juices, my green juices, and I get to work. So that's my morning. That has been my consistent morning ritual since the coronavirus hit.
So I know from what you shared with me before that when this first hit, you did have a few days where you were just like, kind of the lights went out and you were kind of just trying to find your way. Will you talk to us a little bit about that experience and kind of what it was that helped bring you to, obviously now you are aglow, so the lights are not out. So talk to us a little bit about kind of what happened, what you noticed, experienced in those dark days, and then kind of how you pulled out what you did.
Yeah, when the pandemic first came to America in March and then everything shut down, we actually had to cancel a lot of Q2 fundraisers that would have brought in a lot of money. And then just around, well, can we still have our annual fundraising gala in August? Just so much uncertainty. My anxiety levels were so high. And I went through like probably a 5-day depression back in March that I just was like, what is going on? Because it's not just me I have to worry about. And I know this is the case for a lot of people that have families and staff to support and that kind of stuff. But I'm an entire village of little girls is depending on me, right? They're depending on me for the funding. They're depending on me to finish this project, right? And so I have a whole village counting on me. So the anxiety around that was just incredible in March. And then I just was like, I can't live like this. This is not right. So I pulled my big girl boots up. And, I said, look, I've been through disaster before. The Nepal earthquakes, I've been through disaster where you have to pivot and think quick and be quick on your feet. Even last October, I went to Nepal to start the construction of our empowerment center. And when I arrived in the country, there was a national outbreak of dengue fever, which is also a virus. So, I mean, what are the odds of that, right? I arrived in Nepal in a virus outbreak. So we have to pivot. There's delays. I mean, dengue fever, basically, if you get it, it's the worst flu you've ever had. You're hospitalized for like 3 weeks. And then afterward, you're just super fatigued for like a month. So we arrived in that happening. That was in October. And then in December, the coronavirus happened. It's like, what are the freaking odds, right? Now, if anybody can start a project in between 2 virus outbreaks, I can. It's like, what? I mean, of course the universe would give me this like behemoth of a task. Because I've been set up for it because of the earthquakes and traveling in third world countries. So I just find the irony in it that if anyone can handle the task.
Yeah, you are not deterred. Let's just say that.
So I'm used to pivoting quickly.
Yeah. And you are not deterred, and you're a human being, and you had these 5 days in March where you were feeling depressed. And I mean, so everyone has to have those like deep places of tools and deep places of how to navigate when the world drops out from under you. And so that's one invitation I just want y'all to be listening to in Katie's story and be looking for in your own is how's your toolkit of regular rhythms throughout your day, and how is your mental health? I mean, thank you for being so vulnerable about being depressed for 5 days and feeling unsure about how to go on, because I think there's many people around the world that are feeling that way, because many people's the world has dropped out. And the other thing I want to mention, for those that don't know, Katie and I did this, we call it Take One, 2 days ago. And never happened before in this for me, but 16 minutes in, it stopped being live on Facebook. And I didn't realize until at the end, like 45 minutes into our conversation, as we were wrapping up, that no one in the world except my dad and mom that were watching via a different platform saw the whole thing. And so I mentioned that because Katie and I did have a moment of like, okay, this whole story was shared with the thought that it was being broadcast to many people, and for me to share the replay with many people. And after I apologized and said, I'm so sorry that happened, because I have stuff to learn all the time about how to run these things technologically. There's always technical snafu growth opportunities. But what Katie and I, the moment we had after that's such a bummer, was okay, so now what? Now what do we want to do? Is the move to say, it was meant for, those 16 minutes, and that will be the 16 minutes that will live on? Or do we want to, share this story again? And Katie and I, when we talked about it, we were like, no, let's do it again. And let's look for the gold. Let's look for the parts of the stories that now we get to decide in Take Two, we get to focus on. And I also, as I was thinking about it after our call, the snafu Take One of our live stream was, I just think as a community, and you talk about this a lot, Katie, with this globally shared experience that this coronavirus is giving us, there is very little that is going according to plan. Very little. So how are we going to rise? How are we going to step up? How are we going to say, okay, that was not the plan. That is a bummer, but you know what? Let's do this. Like, we are not going to be deterred. And so my invitation to y'all watching is, if there is something in your life that hasn't gone according to plan, how might you be invited to rise and say, you know what, it's time for Take Two or 3 or 4, whichever take you're on. And there's some humility there, and there's some acknowledging that wasn't the plan, that wasn't the way I wanted it to go. I could have done it differently, but I'm just going to keep going. So please be inspired by our, Take Two of this and our Take One snafu, and let's not stop. Let's be unstoppable about the stuff that we're meant to do, the people we're meant to love and serve, even when it doesn't go according to plan. So that brings me, Katie, to one of my other favorite parts of how you share your story, and that is that you are known by many as Curious Katie. Yes?
Yes.
Please talk to us about Curious Katie and how really it sounds whimsical and fun and light, but how it really is part of the grit. It's part of the grit of who you are. So you talk to us, share with us a little bit about Curious.
Yeah. So we did touch up on this in the interview on Wednesday. But it's kind of a running joke that 3 out of 4 ex-boyfriends polled have a nickname for me called Curious Katie.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know that about each other. They just all nicknamed me that, which is really funny. So I'm just constantly excited about, um, you know, looking behind the mask,
Yeah.
pulling down the curtain. What's beneath the veil? I always want to know, how was the universe created? Where did we come from? Um, and people think it's weird, but like one of my side hobbies is like studying quantum mechanics, because I just want to know how everything works and how we're all connected. And so Curious Katie really is born out of the idea of, it's like a lifestyle. It's like how to live is just constantly wondering and asking the questions. I think as a collective,
Mm.
when we stop asking the why, when we
Yeah.
stop questioning our reality and things around us, and I'm not saying like don't turn into some like conspiracy theorist where you're questioning everything, but
Right.
I think it's healthy
Yeah.
to question, and not fall into the category of the masses. Right. We don't want, we want to move away from being a part of the herd, a part of the masses, and really, having critical thought and thinking for ourselves. And those questions, it keeps me excited. It wakes me up in the morning.
Mm.
If I stop being curious, you'd know I've I've kind of given up on life. So
Right.
it's a lifestyle that I've chosen that excites me
Mhm.
and makes me want to wake up in the morning.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you've used the word pivot, 3 or 4 or 5 times. And I know that your curiosity, you're not just doing like a strategic intellectual pivot, although there is strategy and there is profound wisdom in how you are responding. But I know it comes from your curiosity, like, okay, this didn't work. What's our move? What is it going to be? Connected with your deep, like soulfulness of just tenacious hope and love for people and like not being stoppable. You're unstoppable, which I love. So for those, as we near wrapping up, I want to just pause for a moment. I know throughout this conversation we have turned our gaze to those listening and watching, but we really want, in this moment, I want to invite each and every person who is listening and watching to really be specific, be thoughtful, be wise, be soulful, to take some words out of Katie's book, Pages of Life, and think, okay, out of Katie's story, what is meant for me? There is there are no accidents. This is no accident that you're listening to this conversation. So what is the gift? What's the destiny that you are meant to take from this conversation into the soil of your own life? And our invitation is to really think, if you don't know what it is now, kind of keep chewing on it the rest of the day, for what's the act, what's the step, kind of what Katie was talking about, just one step towards what it is that you are drawn to do more, or the shift in your thinking, or the dream that something was sparked in Katie's story, either a new one or an old one. Some of these dreams, I know from many friends of mine, some of these dreams, they take some time to grow, and there is nothing wasted in that time, ever, ever, ever. So if an old dream has come to light as a result of Katie's story today, please consider, what is your step towards that dream to kind of make it a little bit more tangible. And please share it with one person, because as Katie said, this journalist even helped bring to light her story, the connection between herself being adopted and her work with orphans. I mean, sometimes we need each other to remind us, to illuminate what's true. So share what your step is with someone, please. And please post with us. We'd love to hear, message us and share. So Katie, as we wrap up, I would love to hear one last Katie word, story, nugget, something that is just bubbling up in you that you want to leave us with before we end this conversation.
Don't be afraid of failure.
Mm.
There's a quote, Henry Ford. the inventor of the automobile, said, "Failure is simply an opportunity to begin again." And, I think there's just, people have so many what ifs. Well, I don't want to start this because what if it fails? Or I don't want to start it because I don't know what to do. Or, it begins with these baby steps.
Yeah.
You want to do something that matters on this world. If you want to live a legacy and you want to help people and you want to make the world a better place, it begins with an idea.
Yeah.
And you take baby steps. You don't have to have your whole plan figured out. This is, you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to have all the T's and all the dots. All the I's dotted, right? You just need to begin.
Yep.
And you take it one step at a time. Like, so for this Denver program that we're starting, we started with that statistic that we know we want to help foster kids. We don't know how we're going to do that, but we're going to start with that. An idea is born, and then you take one step forward. You beta test, you see, you revise, you evolve, and then once you get to that next step, you go again.
Yeah.
It's just put your one foot in front of you and you'll start walking, but you got to begin. And so my advice to you is don't wait around for someone to tell you what to do. I mean, it's like over the years, people are always like, well, I really want to travel internationally. All right, buy your ticket, but I don't have an itinerary. I don't know where to go. It doesn't matter. Buy your freaking plane ticket. You'll figure it out when you get there. You know what I'm saying? Just go. That's my advice to people.
Just go.
That want to do something significant, that they want to start something that actually matters. Just start it.
That is awesome. Okay, so may the ripples of that charge to just start it, to just go, may those ripples just expand in such a way that our world gets bigger, brighter, more beautiful, and full of people that are doing their part. And just a reminder, everyone's part is different. So please, if your thing is not human trafficking, fine, great, because the world is full of all kinds of other opportunities. So just take the seeds from Katie's story and plant them in your life, and let's see what grows. Please stay connected with us, y'all. And we know life is hard for so many. So we hope that a little bit of Katie's glow of hope and of joy and of tenacity is gonna lighten your load and buoy your spirits. So just a reminder, you're loved, you belong, we belong to each other, and let's stand tall and light up the world together. Katie, thank you for take 2. We're still live, it worked.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. And I love what you're doing with these storytelling series. It's so important for people to share their story, and we learn so much from other people's journeys.
Thank you. Cheers to that. Thank you again. And thanks y'all for being a part of this conversation with Katie Hilborn. Bye guys. Love ya.
Bye.